Could we all stand for invocation of the meeting up for 7:02? Martha?
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight asking for your wisdom, knowledge, and discernment for those representing us to know. Your will for Princetown. We ask your peace and unity that only you can give. Thank you for working your will in this town. Bless those who represent us and their families. We pray, as your word says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. We declare this for our town. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we start, Mr. DeForest, I'll put you up first so you don't have to stay around for the whole meeting.
Thank you very much.
If you want to do your presentation.
Yep. Thank you, and I will be brief, and I appreciate everybody's time. I'm John DeForest. I own a piece of property in Princetown. I would be just to the west and on the north side of Route 7, just to the west of the I-88 underpass. My family owns 6.5 acres there. We've owned it for the better part of 80 or 90 years. We've been working with a company called Troy Iron Works. Troy Iron Works is a steel fabricator, miscellaneous fabricator. They do things like ornamental railings, steel beams. It would be a retail shop. You could go in and have steel cut and fabricated for something that you want to buy. They could weld things that need to be fixed. They are also a subcontractor that in the construction industry that would go out and fabricate beams or stand-up columns or something like that for steel buildings. They are considering 2 different sites, one in Rensselaer County and one in Schenectady County. They're currently located in Schenectady and they'd like to stay here. They're expanding. That's a good thing. They are looking to employ almost 30 people. They're good jobs. They're welders, they're detailers, they're engineers that would go into creating their various products. We're trying to entice them that this would be a good location. They like it because of the ease on and off of I-88 and a workforce that they think is a skilled workforce that they could use. The Schenectady Metroplex is interested in them. They think it's a good fit for the site. But Schenectady Metroplex, before they would do any kind of discussion or offer on what they could provide to entice Troy Iron Works to be in the town, they wanted to make sure that the town of Princetown agreed that this would be a good fit. So for those of you that were at the planning board meeting, so a lot of this is redundant, that's why I'm kind of speeding through it. At the planning board meeting, I had asked 2 questions. One was, is this something that you felt was in compliance with your C1 zoning? And we provided some input from Dave Ingalls and Associates, our engineer, to just make sure that he could back that up, that it was a permitted use in the C1 district. And then the second question I had asked them, which is the same one that I would pose to you, is does Troy Iron Works sound like a company that the town of Princetown would like to see in their community? Because they don't want to be in a place that doesn't want them, and they also want to make sure that Schenectady Metroplex knows that this is something that the community would embrace. There was a few concerns that were raised at the planning board meeting, one being traffic, and they have less than basically 1 trip a day is their average over the course of a week. So they're a very small generator as far as that goes. They don't produce any chemicals, they don't produce any kind of hazardous waste or any products like that. They are in the W4 watershed district, which is, this would be an allowable use. That was one of the concerns, that it wasn't a W2, and we confirmed that indeed it's not. We recognize that we need to go through the entire planning process. We need to satisfy the members of the planning board that this is, the engineering is done, that the septic works, the traffic, all of the site distances and everything from DOT. But we just, again, we're looking for some kind of confirmation that this would be something that the town would be desirous of. So I went through it fairly quickly. I guess the question is there anything else I could tell you about this? And then is there a way to get some kind of a general feel for the atmosphere in the town on that?
Did they give you a clear answer on whether it works in C1 zoning? Because I was at that meeting and it was half and half.
Yeah, there's been 2 revelations. So the short answer is no, there has not been an official ruling of that. We did find that in 2015, the zoning was amended to include warehousing, storage, and Dave Ingalls provided a letter back and forth both with Tommy Verini as well as Carol, outlining how it fits in the C1 zoning. So I would say the ball's in the town's court, but I think it's pretty conclusive when you go through that. We did a little bit of research. Empire Paving was one, if you remember, we talked about at that meeting, would be a very similar use as far as office employees, subcontractor, some heavier pieces of equipment, and they were permitted under that storage warehousing component most recently.
What's the noise level on this operation during the day?
It's a good question. It's not a loud producer. They don't even have fork trucks and that kind of stuff on site. What they basically do is unload and load with electric cranes. So there would be a big user of that, and it would have solar energy to offset some of their electric use. That's not to say when you drop a beam you don't hear it. It's not to say when a tractor trailer pulls in that you're not going to hear it. But I can tell you conclusively, you're not going to hear it over the noise from I-88.
What's the hours of operation?
They would be basically a 7 to 4, 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. Again, if things were busy, there could be a Saturday, but they don't work a second shift, they don't work third shifts, they don't work on Sundays.
So it wouldn't be a weekend operation, no?
Yeah, I think that they would want to have that right if it was a Saturday and they were behind, but generally they're a Monday through Friday.
So I got an email just recently from ZRC, and one of the things in that email indicated that they would like us to solidify our zoning and our rules and change them around a little bit. And one of the things that they're suggesting here is that we allow fabrication and or manufacturing, wineries, distilleries, and breweries. So if we were to go that route, then that would take care of your problem. That would certainly solve that. I mean, if that's the route you go. I mean, that's a process that has to be done, but and I just got this email, so I don't know, just
Thank you.
reading you what I just received.
One of the closest parallels that is a permitted use in the C1 zoning district is building materials and lumber yards. And so there was a little bit of a debate on, well, is building materials simply storing it, or is there fabrication or processing of building materials? And we use the example of the Bellevue Truss Shop cuts and assembles trusses and then sends them out as a building. And clearly that's their classification, would be building materials. So I think combination of what you just said
Yeah,
as far as...
if this language changes, then it's basically, there's no problem.
Yes.
But that again is, I just got this email, so it's something we have to work on. I will say this, I personally, myself, I like the idea. I know the company, I'm familiar with it. I know their products. They make a really quality product. They're great for not only builders who are building normally larger houses that would have that type of a steel spiral staircase. Exactly. Or that type of thing. And there's a lot of properties even here, and Princetown people that would probably wind up being customers if it ever came into being.
I just built a house 2 years ago, and they were the ones that installed the steel beam that holds up your, in the basement, that holds up the first floor. So they would be working for like smaller residential guys, that kind of thing as well.
Well, the first step is to present this all to the planning board, and I know, Doug, do you have anything to say? Because we have a member of our planning board.
Well, we reviewed, ZRC last night and, the meeting on the planning board. And my comment, it would be allowed use under the building material provision. There is no clear definition of what building materials are in our zoning code. And if you were to just take the general terminology of building materials, it would apply, to that company, to Troy Iron. They are providing building materials. I came away from the planning board being positive. I think it's a good fit in the town. I believe that under the 5.1 building materials, it's allowed under that provision. Whether we change the local law to add, fabrication and manufacturing and the other things
Is that
we
the
discussed at
consensus
ZRC.
vote to add that? Was that the consensus?
That was the consensus at ZRC last night, yes.
All right.
But that's another
So this
process
email-
of changing the local law or amending the zoning to accomplish that. But I would say that even under the building material provisions under 5.1, it would be an allowed use.
But this was a consensus email, then? It wasn't just
Correct.
one? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they want us to add those words, which.
Well, you didn't present the whole thing to the planning board and haven't reviewed it yet, correct?
No formal application, but he made his presentation at our last planning board meeting, as we had a room full of people, here at the ZRC, the ZBA, and the planning. We all, including a lot of the town board members were there too, so we, everybody in town got to hear what they're proposing, and it's a pretty clear fit up on top of the hill. There's a lot of highway noise there. It's probably a good fit for the parcel.
I'm not sensing any negativity, quite frankly. I mean,
Yeah.
I was at the meeting the other night, and I talked to folks outside afterwards. I really didn't sense any great resistance. So
Yeah.
is that what you're asking?
That's exactly it. All we wanted to be able to do, because so much of this before we even got into the engineering and the planning board process, was to be able to go to the Schenectady Metroplex and make sure we were clear on what Metroplex would offer to Troy Iron, because that really will make a difference in their final selection of a site that they want to pursue.
So does anybody on the board have an objection to any of this?
I don't right now, but the
Right.
planning board, the next step is for the presentation to the planning board with their recommendation.
One further comment, when there was clarity on the water districts overlay, and they did clarify it is W4, it's the least restrictive out of all the overlay districts in town. So there's not an environmental issue, seeing it's the least restrictive zone that parcel sits on.
Just, and the last clarification I'll make, the reason why I keep going back to the Metroplex is that this is in your town zoning, this is in an economic development zone. And that's what made it fall into under the auspices of the Schenectady Metroplex, that they do have resources to attract businesses like that. So that's, again, why when we met with Ray Gillen said it is something that they would embrace. It is something that they can offer something to Troy Iron Works to make this deal work. But they didn't want to do that if it flew in the face of something that Princetown didn't want.
I think you could probably comfortably say informally, it's no formal thing, that you're not meeting any great resistance. And based on the current email from ZRC, it sounds to me like there's support on that end. So I would think informally, at least, we're not doing anything formal tonight, but informally, I think if that's what you're asking us, if there's a formal resistance, I don't see any, unless I'm missing something
Well, I don't see
somewhere
any
from
right now, but
anybody.
like I said, the next step is to go to the planning board with a formal proposal.
Yep.
And start the ball rolling. I don't know, we can't make formal this time, like I said.
No, not asking for that. So, this has been very helpful, and I think we've accomplished what we were hoping to do.
Maybe, excuse me, maybe we can simultaneously or get the ball rolling on the zoning amendment for 5.1 to add those provisions, so at least it's in the, process. If, we have an interruption, if it's not classified as building materials, then there's another way to classify it. So, that might
To have a public hearing, and we have to have it.
Are you talking about 6.5?
or 6.5, yes.
Okay, because that's what the email says.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, the next step is to the planning board and see what they have to say. Like I say, we can't formally vote on anything tonight.
Great, well, I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. If we're done seeing anything to call the roll.
Councilman Foley,
Yes, here.
Councilwoman Schaefer. Here. Councilman Gray.
Here.
Councilman Jacaruso.
Here.
Supervisor Esposito.
Right. Okay, privilege of the floor. At every scheduled town board meeting, the public shall have the right to address the town board during a portion of the meeting referred to as privilege of the floor. Members of the public should restrict their comments to items of town business. Although there is no official time constraint, speakers should be considerate of others so that all interested members of the public have an opportunity to be heard. There shall be one portion of the meeting dedicated to privilege of the floor near the beginning of each meeting. All remarks and questions shall be addressed to the board. No person shall enter into discussion with the person having the floor. Council members may address any comments during a portion of the meeting referred to as council member comments. Privilege of the floor is open at 7:20.
Yeah, good evening.
Could you turn that? Thank you.
Is that plugged in or anything?
No.
Okay.
Speak a little loud so we can all hear.
All right, my name's Carl Barta. I'm the chairman of the Princetown Environmental Advisory Committee. And I'm here tonight to address the town board, and I want to request that you allocate the amount of, say, I'm thinking $500, and that would be going toward our Recycle Day program, which is scheduled to take place on April the 28th of 2018. The need for the money would be to buy shrubs, maybe some trees that we could use to give away to people that, partake in that particular event. Traditionally, we've always given away tree seedlings or some kind of shrubs like Rose of Sharon or lilacs to anybody from Princetown that wish to come down and get some. I think this has been an incentive for people to not only come down and get some trees and shrubs to use to beautify their property, but also to clean out their garages and get rid of those tires and scrap metal and things that we turn around and get rid of for them. Now, of that $500 that I'm requesting, $200 of that would come from the revenues that we generated in April of 2017 Recycle Day. And we generated about, I think it was like 143 in scrap metal and $57 for tire disposal. So basically the net amount that I'm requesting from the town board would be $300 additional. Okay, and that concludes my request.
Thank you. Any others? No others?
Oh, I'm thinking of the trees in back of my mom's house, the little red house on Pangburn Road.
Hang on, excuse me, just Martha.
Oh, Martha
Miss-
Crawford.
Okay.
They
Martha.
must be, what, 40, 50 feet tall now? She got the trees at one of these things in Princetown, and they're just gigantic. I don't know what kind of fir they are, but everybody looks at them and says, where did they come from? They came from this particular project, and I can't even remember. I was just a little kid. Very little. We're still dealing with those trees. Oh, dear.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Any others? Okay. We'll close this portion of the meeting at 7:26. We already did the presentation on regarding Troy Iron Works, so highway, Nick Senior is not feeling well tonight, he's sick, and has a bad cold coming on, so he asked me to tell you that the gate has been made for the entranceway to the road coming into the town hall. So we're going to pick it up this week, and I guess he's going to install it. And we have security signs that are going to be placed up to the entrance that Center for Security is providing, that are going to say that the premises are under video surveillance. The perimeter of the building and the driveway is under video surveillance. So that's going to be installed too. And that's under highway, and that's all he had. George, water?
Well, over the last several months, we had 3 leaks along Pangburn Road, 3 holes in the pipe, rocks went through it, exposed. Testing we done this year for disinfection byproducts. Some places you hear about it, they're cancer causing carcinogens in some towns. Our THMs and HHAs are well below, only 20. And maximum contaminant level is 80. We've never really had a problem with any of the byproducts. Our lead and copper, our lead is zilch on all the tests that we've done. Copper, since we went to treating it there about 10 years ago, has not been a problem in any homes that we test. It's down to 0.1, 0.2 in the houses that we do. Now we're on a reduced testing program. Well, we'll have to do that like every 3 years, only doing 5 tests every 3 years instead of doing 20 tests every 6 months. Outside of that, not much else going on.
Any questions for George?
We didn't get our grant, I understand, so that's unfortunate. Is there any chance of possibly reapplying for next year, or is it a one-time deal?
I already reapplied for
You
it.
reapplied, so is there any chance that we may have a different result next year, or?
Talking with Doug about it, they're going to try adding a few more things in, especially that section of Pangburn Road where we might have to replace 300-400 feet of pipe up there. Because now moved past me that day there, and I got 5 patches and 30 feet of pipe.
So there's a chance, but it's
There's
no.
a chance, I could not believe, and I think Doug Cole did either, that we were in 43 pages of municipalities and towns and we were like fifth from the bottom of these things, and our score was 5, I think the cutoff was 80. They gave grants too.
For those of you who don't know out there, we applied for a grant for $600,000 for repair of our water system. The state was awarding these grants, and our town was denied it. They didn't give any reasons other than that we didn't score high enough. And it's my understanding that our water system is too new, and there was other, like Rotterdam, I think they got over $1 million
Yeah,
for
they got
theirs,
several million.
$1.2 or something. And it's probably because theirs is maybe 100 years old or whatever, so that's one of the reasons I think we didn't apply. But I've reached out to the Assemblyman's office to ask him if he could check into it. They said they would, and I haven't heard anything back yet. But we did reapply, signed papers for us to apply for it next year. It's in. We had a deadline, and Sandy, what was the deadline that we had to do
I
it?
got the papers.
Friday, I think it is. Last Friday.
And last Friday, so we got it in time, so. And all it was signing another application and sending it in because all of the workup on it has already been done, plus what Doug Cole is going to add to it, so.
November 10th.
But that's not very good news for us, but we're just going to have to keep repairing the system as it keeps failing. And George, you yourself said that it's going to continue to fail.
You can try guessing, let's do a few valves and that stuff, but there's only so much money in the budget every year, and you go out there and repair a few valves, and all of a sudden get hit with a couple major ones. Because nowadays too, and there was a guy here from Carver's now, DOT, New York State, the county, the insurance companies. We used to go out there and do these repairs with just a couple guys. Now all of a sudden we gotta have traffic control, we gotta have signs, we gotta have flagmen all over the place, Instead of doing it with 2 people, 3 people, we have 4 or 5 people standing around. You have to have it just for your insurance and New York State.
Everyone understands that the repairs only come from the people in the water district. It doesn't come from any parts of the town other than the water district. It's the ones who are paying for the infrastructure in the water district. So, just so everybody's clear on that, people like in Willow Run or Rennick's Corners, they're not paying for this.
No.
This is only on the water districts that are paying for it. Anything else, George?
No, I guess that's it.
Anybody, questions for George? No? All right, thank you, George. Code enforcement, I think he's in with somebody, isn't he?
He's
George?
here, I think, yeah, the city, I talked to him earlier.
He's in with somebody. And Ben Moore's not here, his wife is here, doing the video, so Sandy, you got something that you said?
Yes, there was a dog that was picked up on Reynolds Road a couple weeks ago that was running loose. Ben had to go retrieve the dog, and the dog spent the night at the APF. But the man did get a hold of APF and knew that the dog was there. He had to come here and renew his license, renew the rabies shot, and by noontime, he was picking the dog up. So it was, once again, Facebook. Somebody knew the dog on Facebook and said that they thought it belonged to that gentleman. He did have a call for a problem with a horse and a problem with a bear, and told the people that he does not take care of those things. I think that's it.
Okay, court, I don't think we have anything from Judge Miller. I had asked the assessor to attend tonight, but he had a meeting in New York City with the governor's office. I really don't know what that was about, other than it must have had something to do with the assessors in the state. There's been some people that have been saying that we reassess properties. We never reassessed any properties because the school taxes have gone up. The school taxes have gone up, according to the assessor, is because they have been changing the way that they formulate the STAR program to the individuals now. And I don't understand it fully, but that's why I'd asked the assessor. He's going to be at the next meeting. But everybody thinks that we reassess properties. We never reassessed any of the properties. He's telling me, and according to what I hear from the state, that they're looking to do away with this STAR program. Eventually. I guess the governor does not want it anymore, and usually what he wants he gets, so. But he's been reducing it. From what he tells me, you were given $1,400, what the assessor told me. If you were getting $1,400 towards your taxes, school taxes, now it's $1,200. And this has got nothing to do with the town. This is just the way they're formulating it now. And I've been reading things in the paper that they want to do, reduce it or do away with it, which is not a good sign for the taxpayers in the state of New York, under, especially with our school taxes being what they are. But he'll be here at the next meeting to explain it better than what I can. And, buildings and grounds, they're putting in the garage doors at the state police. They, I asked them to, we had a bid that was a little higher. They agreed to, overhead door agreed to reduce that $150. So it came in equal with the other one. And they're going to be finishing up the 3 garage doors and an opener on one of them tomorrow. Just some minor things here. Talked about that. Oh, the solar system was out for approximately a month, and we were not notified of it. We all know that New York Light Energy filed for bankruptcy a couple years ago and was bought out. So they, new outfit that came in called our Sandy's office and told them that there was something wrong with the solar system. It wasn't producing anything. They came up, we thought it was repaired. They never notified us that it was or wasn't. And then the other day I got a call from the state police on a Friday that there was somebody up here working on outside in the back of the building, and I came up and they were replacing something in the panel in the back, the AC/DC that converts it. So they did repair that, and we're supposed to be up and running. I told them I wasn't satisfied with the results that we've been getting with the solar, so they're going to do a study on it, and Sandy and Isla worked on providing the company with the National Grids, excuse me, National Grids billing for the 3 districts. So they're going to, they sent it in and said it'll be a couple days, so we'll find out exactly what the savings has been over the year, for the last year. And that was sent in today, Sandy?
Today I emailed it.
And they said they would have it within 3 days. I told you that the security system is in. The perimeter is secure now, so that's done and sold. I guess that's it. And the other thing is for Jim with the defibrillator.
Yeah, we have decided that we would like to get a defibrillator for town hall. We had the CPR classes here. A lot of people got trained. Defibrillators are very easy to use. We are a public place, so that a lot of people are here, and if something happened, it would be convenient to have one here. So we're going to look into purchasing one. We'll have to go through the process, of course, but we're going to look into pricing it. We'll see if we can get one on state contract. That would be the ideal thing. But once it gets in, I will offer to train anybody that would like to know how to use it. And we may even have 1 or 2 classes here publicly. The other thing, as far as we're doing building and grounds, about a month ago, I came in and did a ping test on the internet, and our speed is just not adequate. It's not working. So we agreed to up the speed of the internet, and we were assured that within a week or two, our speed would be dramatically increased. Well, it's been a month, and I came in today and Sandy advised me that nothing has changed. So I called there, and they're saying that because everything's going digital and they got a lot of stuff going on, that they're behind the 8 ball. But anyway, I'm not happy about the fact that it's been a month and it still hasn't changed. But hopefully she assured me they were going to expedite it and get this thing going so that at least the internet here at Town Hall will be adequate. The other thing, as far as the security goes, NYMAR sends out a newsletter every month, and this month happened to feature on the front of the newsletter the importance of having municipal buildings fully surveilled with video cameras. And so I'll leave this here on the table if anybody wants to take it and read it. But just ironic that we just got done doing that and they came out with that this month.
Thank you, Jim. There's one other thing before we go much farther. We have a park fund, and the bond was came due. We have $34,837.26 in it. It was supposed to be renewed today. Come to find out, we went down last Friday to renew it, and I couldn't renew it because they said the term wasn't up yet. So they said you have to come down on the 14th, and I got a call from Island while we were on our way down there, and they already sent a check in the mail. Bank of America. So the question is, what do we want to do with the $34,000? This was a park fund that was established, I don't know, according to Iowa, over 20 years ago. I don't know, Michelle, you were here then, I don't know, probably.
I gotta be honest with you, my personal opinion, and again, this is unofficial, but the town of Princetown is a rural town. A lot of us own property, 4 or 5 acres. My own house, I consider my own property is like a park to me. I don't really see where a tiny little town like this necessarily needs a park to maintain, and that requires maintenance, insurance, upkeep, and all this other stuff. I'm glad we have the park fund, but I'm not sure. I mean, our whole objective in town is to keep our expenses at a minimum. I mean, we had Eastern refrigeration here all day. My guess is that it's probably going to be $3,000 today, $2,000 from today's work. I mean, I don't really see what we gain by looking into developing a park. First of all, we don't have the land for it. We'd have to purchase land. The land next door, the land adjacent to this, informally I was told was in the hundreds of thousands, which we don't have that kind of money to buy that. So that's my own opinion. I mean, you know, that's one person's opinion, but if anybody feels like we have to have a park and all the expenses associated with it, then we could continue that.
Well, we were going to get, I don't know, it was on the news, you'll be hearing, somebody must have heard it on the news that we're getting a grant for $10,000 for a park fund.
Are there strings attached to that? Does that require?
Well, there is. You're supposed to be used for sidewalks or for parks, but it was, you know, I received the email on it that I'm supposed to get a hold of the county to verify this and put in the application for it, and I guess it's all but a done deal if we, for the $10,000, so we would have $44,000 in our park fund. The question is, over here, you're supposed to be using that $10,000 for parks or sidewalks or whatever, which we don't have, so I have to figure out how we're gonna do this or not.
I know the last time we were doing anything, we were trying to re-nail our picnic tables together and we put piece everything that we've had over the years together. I mean, and we like to do events here in the town. And is it something where we could get some easy ups or new picnic tables or pave the stone, the crusher stone that we have up here? take care of something like that? I mean, just as a
That would
thought
all,
for
that
you.
would all be acceptable to me. I'm just saying, if by park fund, we're thinking, originally, the original idea that came up was possibly purchasing like the next door property and then developing that. We're just too small a town to do that. We just can't afford to have another park. We can afford to maintain our property in a park-like way, the gazebo, the flags. It looks beautiful. When you pull in here, when we get our gates in here, it's gonna look gorgeous. You pull in, Veterans Day, all the flags are out. I mean, that's probably about the extent of the park that we can afford to do, and I would be more than happy to spend all this money and even earmark it for those type of things.
Well, the thing is, we have to do something with it, and I'm not in favor of just putting it in the general fund, and we can't sit on the check.
Can you put it back in the CD?
Well, we talked about it today over there, CDs pay nothing, what would you like to put it in? Something that's secure.
Yeah, I mean, even if we were to put it in the short duration bond fund, which is a 6-month bond fund, we're gonna get about 1%, is about what we're looking at, 1.24%.
Hey, Lou, if I may, I think that the park fund was created as a vehicle from the zoning where large subdivisions come in and they pay a fee. If you go back into, 10 or 15 years ago, I don't think it's public money. I think it is earmarked for a park fund, and I think it's going to be separated from a general fund. But I think there's a provision in the zoning law that when applicants come in for large major subdivisions, there's a provision in there that, they donate to the park fund. And I'm pretty sure that's there, but I'm pretty sure that it's not public.
Well, that's what my thing is, I think they should
Budgetary money.
put it back into a,
Yeah.
see what else we can get on it. We need something that's secure though.
Yeah, we could designate it as a park fund, and,
Yeah.
even if we could legally, as Jack said, that would be nice. I mean, when the gazebo starts going bad, or the picnic tables, or things like that, if we could do that and just kind of parkify our little area here, if we can use those funds for that, that would be, in my opinion, would be a great idea. And we could earmark those funds for that. I don't think they should go in the general fund.
I don't think they can. I think because they're
No, they
earmarked.
shouldn't go in the general fund.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
We did that with, what was in the comprehensive plan. I mean, another thing, we cleared a tremendous amount of land that was done last summer. I mean, some of that should be used to maintain that, I would think, as a public, use area. We never had all that property to use up on the hill before.
Yeah, but that's not our property.
Pardon?
That's not our
Oh,
property.
that was not our.
That's not our property,
Oh, I
no.
thought part of that
No,
was.
my
It's
understanding
about
is,
10 or 15 feet to the right of the.
Yeah.
my understanding is the price of that property is in the hundreds of thousands, and we're in no position.
I thought that was.
No, that's not our property. We're in no position to buy that.
We tried to buy it over here too. Yeah, years ago, we tried to buy the property where behind.
I think that's what that.
I mean, we've survived 20 years with a park fund and no park, and nobody's missed it.
We can't, according to Isla, our bookkeeper, we can't sit on this check and just put it in a safety or in a safe and decide what we're gonna do. This has to be deposited right away in something. So,
Not just open a savings account, get it in there now, and then decide what you want to do with the money later on.
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, at least then it's deposited, you don't have to worry about any of the legal stuff.
I mean, what's the deal with Bank of America? Are we done with them? Are we?
yeah, they sent the check without, even before the expiration date. I don't understand that. That's what it says, the 14th, and they already sent the check. It was already in the mail.
So we have to open up a separate account for this?
Yeah?
Well, we can do that tomorrow.
Well, we gotta get it from, yeah, we can do it. No,
Do we need any resolution or anything to do that? Should we make a motion that we open up, what bank would you like to use?
probably MBT Bank. I don't wanna go back to Bank of America the way they treated us.
Well, I would be happy to make a motion that we, in order to process this check, we go and open up an account at MBT Bank tomorrow, put it in a savings account, at least it's there, it's deposited in the name of the park fund. And if we need a motion, I'll make that motion,
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay? Is that all we need?
Sandy?
You want the resolution just to say we're going to open a savings account at MBT Bank earmarked as park
Park fund to
fund?
deposit this check of
To deposit this.
$34,837.26. $34,837.26. We'll deposit that check in that account tomorrow,
Thursday, Jim.
or whatever days.
We tie it up tomorrow, Thursday. So you can have the check and I can have everything ready and I'll just go and do it Thursday. Sandy?
Yes.
Thank you. So you made the motion, Jim, and Ben seconded
Ben
it?
seconded.
Councilman Cavaldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer? Yes. Councilman Jackaruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes.
Do we know, is there a mechanism of cash flow on what we were talking about, where developers come in? Is there a mechanism by which this cash comes in and goes through?
I think it comes through the town clerk.
Have you had a check like that in the recent history?
Put towards the
To
park.
put towards the park fund? In the last 5
We
years?
haven't had any big major subdivisions either, so, or large projects.
That was anything that's ever triggered it. Yeah.
Okay, we got all that done. All right. Public hearing. Continuation of the public hearing from October 10th, 2017, regular meeting to consider public comment on a proposed amendment to zoning code Article 5, general provisions, section 5.1, compliance required to allow a parcel of real property that is situated in two zoning classifications to use either zoning classification or more restrictive zoning classification for the entire parcel. Public hearing to allow comments regarding the 2018, see, that's the next one. Let's do that one first. Public hearing is now open.
Should we read the actual law, because that's not the law.
Could we hear what the law that's actually written?
That's on page 7.
That's just,
The bold.
I'll read the whole thing. No building shall be erected, moved, altered, rebuilt, or enlarged, nor shall any land or building be used, designed, or arranged to be used for any purpose or in any manner except in conformity with the local law, and particularly with the specific regulations for the district in which such building or land is located. Any use not specifically permitted by the local law is prohibited. Notwithstanding the above, any lot which sits in more than one zoning classification as set forth and defined in Article 4 of the Town of Princetown zoning code and the zoning map of the Town of Princetown may be used in its entirety in any manner authorized under the most restrictive zoning classification in which the lot sits upon, provided, however, that such lot at any time of any new building use or purpose is vacant and has no prior established use. Furthermore, if 75% or more of the total square footage of any such lot sits upon the less restrictive use, said lot may also be used in its entirety in accordance with the rules and regulations applicable to such less restrictive zoning classification as set forth in the zoning code. And the bold is the add-on to that.
So just to clarify, and to make sure that this is accurate, if the lot is 75% or more commercial, they can choose commercial or residential.
Right, because that's the less restrictive of
Right.
those two.
So if it's less than 75% commercial, it has to be residential.
That would be the only option, yeah.
That's how that reads, right? In
Correct.
simple terms?
Correct.
It's open for public comment. Have Mr. Carver's, do you have anything I'd like to say?
Hope you pass it.
So why was it, I think we had 51% was one of the suggestions. Why was it switched to 75?
There was comment about protecting, a residential neighborhood from being next to commercial. So, how, what other ways can we protect a residential area from all of a sudden getting a commercial? So the reason the 75 was just to protect more the residential possible neighbor. So, it's got to be more than just 50, it's got to be 75. So it's kind of in fairness, if it's more than 75% commercial, really, get close to this, should be allowed to use it for commercial. And we could do 50, or 51% too, but that's just the way it ended up.
Bob?
Questioning whether there will be a provision or a requirement that if the property is used as a residence, that it is stated either in the deeds or on the survey plat, both, that the residence is now being established next to commercial property, and that residence has no recourse now or in the future for any business that happens to be placed next to them or is operating at that time. There's language that's already put in the agricultural district that if you build a house next to an operating farm, it has to be put on the plats that you built a house next to an operating farm, and that has noises, smells, activity associated with it. And I'm just wondering if the same type of provision is going to be placed on, if a parcel is used instead of commercial as residential, whether the same type of restriction will be attached to their surveys.
Well, it's not in as it sits here. The planning board could do that when the person came in for site plan approval. So it's not prohibited from adding that step if the situation is they're putting residential next to a commercial. But it's not specifically required, at least as part of this local law, the way it sits now.
I personally think it would be a good idea. As that was the issue for years, was we did not allow residences to be built in our commercial properties because of conflicts that arose and lawsuits and so forth. And I don't have any problem with someone wanting to build in that area, under the circumstances that we're talking about, but I think there should be protection for the business, that someone can't say, oh, well, now I don't like the noise over there. Well, it was there before you were there, or what have you. And you knew you built a residence in a commercial property zone.
Those cases have been litigated before. And, when things like that happen, and if I think in most cases, there's no recourse. Is there for the residential if they go next to a commercial that they knew was commercial?
The buyer's or builder's obligation to know what they're getting into. Not that it would hurt to disclose it.
Well, only saying that because I hate to see the town get wrapped up in the legal litigation over something. Everybody gets sued, and that's how it works. And by requiring that, I think it would at least give us as a town, some protection as to why you allow that to happen. Maybe not. That's just my opinion. That's all. We had discussions of this at the ZRC meetings also. So, and I'm absolutely in favor of what's being proposed. We have to give some sort of relief to these odd zoned lots, and there's several in town, and there's only going to be more of them as time goes on.
Well, I guess the question for you is this something you want to mandate here, or do you want to leave it in the discretion of the planning board for when they're reviewing site plan application?
They can add that to it.
Yeah.
Seems to me that would be the way to go, because not every parcel is gonna be an issue. It's only gonna be an issue in very rare cases, and in that case, the planning board does have the ability, will have the ability to incorporate that in. Would that satisfy you, Paul? If we-
My question is, I mean, I don't know if it's a requirement that they do it with ag districts, but it seemed like that became automatic. And in my particular situation, they told us we had to do that and put it on the surveys. And to me, it only makes sense if it's required there. Why wouldn't we do, a business is a business, whether it's a farm or a business, another type of business. That's all. And if the language is already there and the planning board has that requirement, that's fine with me. That's all. I just want to protect the town from pushback, because that's what can happen. You know, 10 years down the road, somebody says, well, I didn't know this was a commercial zone next door. And they know darn well it was when they bought the property. But they forget. And if it's in the deed, their memory gets, they're reminded. That's all.
Do you have a problem with that, Doug?
No, it hasn't come, before us, as long as I've been there. But, to write it in our, either on the subdivision or the site plan, that gets lost in the shuffle on a paper, in a file somewhere. Any teeth would have to be at the deed level or at the local level. So unless we have a mechanism to incorporate it within part of the site plan review, to add it or require it to be added to the deed or the new deed description. Other than that, if it's just a part of the site plan, it's buried. It never, you can never find it again, most likely.
Do you know if what he's referring to with the agricultural
Yes.
is in the code as required, or is it discretionary?
It's discretionary.
Discretionary.
So
It is discretionary.
huh?
Okay, it is discretionary?
Yeah, it's,
Okay. I didn't take it that way.
every, if somebody brings it up, it's an issue, then we can address it. But if it's not, it's not, nobody says anything, it's not something that we constantly review, on every case, so.
What's the board think? You want to add that to it?
It's not required with the agriculture.
You're not talking agricultural here, you're talking commercial and residential.
Right. Well, what's worse, being next to a farm with all kinds of smells, or being next to a commercial that's making noise, and they're both disruptive potentially. But if it's not required for agriculture, it's discretionary. I don't know if you want to be,
But
you
then
want to
you
be
go into different
consistent.
zones, won't you? Because now you have just certain business districts versus your agricultural districts too. So wouldn't it be something totally separate to have to add it for agricultural business? Like if you have a farm stand or you have something else that's different from,
Yeah, that's a good
Other
point. This
business.
doesn't just, we're talking
Right.
residential, commercial, but this is not specific like that. This is talking any two types
right, and they're
of
you're
lots.
talking two totally
Yeah,
different
that's
types
a
of
good point.
businesses.
I mean, my personal feeling is I think you should leave it in the hands of the planning board, because you're gonna get in all those details when the project comes in. But if it's super important that you want it, no matter what, you could mandate it and make it a requirement that whenever this situation occurs, if it's passed, it has to be put in the deed that you're next to a less restrictive type of zoning classification.
We could always add that later if we needed to, right?
Good.
I mean, so we can go with this now. It doesn't sound like it's.
Well,
ever-
adding later requires the full shot again, full public hearing, to amend the local law, you're gonna end up going through the whole process again.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like it's been an issue in the past, right?
No, we haven't had it, as far as the ag district, but,
Right.
it's a new thing gonna be coming up now, is changing, changing the zoning in the commercial district, so I don't know how it's gonna play out.
But regardless, we would have to put up another public meeting for the agricultural one anyway, so we can either do this one today or put this one on hold and have to do them both together.
I think we need to do this
Do this
today,
now
yes.
and do the other one at a different
I
time.
I'd say do it
I
today.
think we have to get this done today. They've been waiting a long time to get this straightened out, and we really need to,
Right,
really
they're
need
not
to.
having
I agree
that issue
with
right
that.
now with agricultural.
I say we leave it like it is and let the planning board, and if we have a problem in the future, then we'll have to address it and we'll do it. We, like Jim says, they've been waiting
Yeah,
going on a year.
we can't put off another meeting.
I mean, it's been going on about a year.
Can I speak first?
Yeah, sure. State your name.
George McHugh. I'm general counsel of the Carver Company, Carver Laraway. And I know a lot of this is to do with the lots that we have on Giffords Church Road. And just so people understand, Giffords Church Road, our two lots are 7.5 acres apiece. And on the left of these lots, they're right next to each other, by the way. To the left of the lots is a house. In front of them, across the street, is a house. And to the right, as I'm facing the lots, is a golf course. And that's all there is. The zoning goes out in the back, so the back half of the lot is residential, and the front half on the road is commercial. But everything around it is residential on Giffords Street, except for the golf course. Anybody who bought, now, our plan, our intention here was always to make these 2 homes, that's it. 7.5 acre lot, 1 house and another house, single family, not apartments, and to sell them, custom homes. And that's what should be there, because that's an entirely residential area. And anybody who builds there is gonna see that the only thing commercial next to them is a golf course. And I don't know what fairway it is, but that's what's right next to them. So there is no other commercial in that area, except for Carver's headquarters, which is down the road and to the left, and we'll see that too. So whether you add that or you don't add that, wouldn't really make a difference to us in this instance. I don't know what other lots you've got in the town that might be affected by this local law. I don't think you had that many from the last meeting I attended. But in our case, it wouldn't matter either way. But you know, your attorney raises a good point. Why strap the hands of your planning board? Because in some instances, you may want that discretion, and in some, it may not make any sense like this. In ours, it wouldn't make any sense to put it or not. So give them that discretion, I would say. My only question would be, if this law does pass, do we have to go back to the planning board for site plan? Or would we be able to now go, given that our lot would be less than 75%, so we would be in the more restrictive residential, we could build those homes. Could we go and get a building permit for these lots, or we have to go back through the planning board cycle?
I would suspect, and you've got to do whatever the normal process is, so.
It would have to go back to planning for site plan,
I would think.
for site plan review.
I would think so.
Okay, and that's, I'm just
For site
asking.
plan. But whatever
The
normal
site plan
process.
review was for a commercial subdivision.
Okay.
So now it would be reviewed for a residential house.
For houses, okay, before you get a building permit. Correct. Okay. Just trying to share the subject.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So everyone in agreement on this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we should move with this, get this tonight. Yeah, we're in the public hearing too, right?
Is there any other comments? No other comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 8:09. Okay. We'll open up the public hearing to allow comments regarding the 2018 preliminary budget of the town of Princetown. It'll end up being tentative and then doing final tonight. Yeah, because it has to be done by the 20th. Our fund balance is probably, according to our bookkeeper, is around $352,000 we're going to end up with. We don't know what our sales tax revenue is going to be, but we should end up close to $400,000. With our town size, we were told years ago that we're not allowed to keep much more than $350,000 or $360,000 in our account. So I think that we're doing very well as far as keeping our fund balance up. So if anybody would like a copy of the budget, they're more than welcome to have it. So all I have to ask is our town clerk, and she would be more than happy to provide it to you. But we basically, nothing has changed other than we have given some raises to our people that were working the staff. None of our town board members or committee people have gotten that. It was only for our staff. And the reason being, the town board thought that it's been 11 years since there has been any raises whatsoever, that there should be something given to them. And it was agreed upon that we should give them some kind of a raise since it has been 11 years. And the board decided to increase the salaries. We did increase the hourly pays for only the people that work for the town. The water department, whatever it is, the code enforcement, the assessor, things of that nature. None of the town board members received a raise whatsoever. We agreed that that wasn't what we wanted to do. We did give a raise to our highway superintendent because that's supposed to be done at the beginning, at election time, and our town clerk, because that was supposed to be done at election time. We can, the budget has to be finalized, if I'm not mistaken, George, do you remember what I said, by the 20th or
I think it's the 20th.
the 20th of this month? That has to be finalized. So we're going to have to vote on this tonight, or we're going to have to schedule another meeting if we want to make any changes in the budget. But I think we've got a very good budget. There's no town taxes. Our fund balance is high. We're going to be able to, we've allocated for finishing up the third phase of the road project up in Willow Run, which is going to be completed next year. So I think we're in very good shape. I don't know if anybody has read what the state of New York has done and how it's going to affect the town, but I will read this to you. The town board has a copy of it. I'm pleased to report that the New York State Volunteer Fighter Gap Coverage Cancer Disability Benefit Act has been signed into law. Chapter 334 of 2017. Under this new measure, effective January 1st, 2019, volunteer firefighters will be eligible to receive access to tax-free disability and death benefits if diagnosed with certain cancers or diseases from their service to our community. New York State Volunteer Firefighter Gap Coverage Cancer Disability Benefit Act can help our volunteer firefighters and their family in times of need. The coverage helps with medical expenses for providing a lump sum payment of either $6,250 or $25,000 depending on the severity of the diagnosis. It also creates a 36-month, $1,500 a month monthly benefit for the firefighters who become disabled and a $50,000 accidental death benefit for families. I ask you that you share this important news with local members of the volunteer fire services in your area. I have no idea how this is going to be funded, what responsibility the towns are going to have in this. They have not said. I have no idea what it's going to cost the town. To me, it seems like it's an unfunded mandate so far, but we haven't received anything else other than this.
So we don't know the town's on the hook at all.
We don't
have any idea.
We're not sure.
That's all I know is what I've read in the paper, and I read that the governor signed this into law. So we don't know what it's gonna cost the town, if it's gonna cost anything at all, or the state is gonna fund it. I got a feeling it's gonna cost the town something down the road. I don't know what, but,
Isn't like disability and those things usually covered by the state?
Somebody has to pay it, yes, covered by the state.
Yeah, it'll be the taxpayers.
Somebody has to pay it, the
I understand
taxpayer
that.
pays it, right. The
But not
employer,
directly from the town.
the employer generally pays it. So if you're, if you're working for a town, the town would then be paying this New York State disability insurance for you, so that if you got disabled, you'd have that insurance.
well, then that means that part of our disability policy is.
I don't know how they're gonna fund it. We'll have to look into that. I'm not sure how it's being done. They didn't tell us that part in the letter.
No, it doesn't say that.
They kind of left that part out.
But other than that, like I said, our budget is, we're in very good shape financially, and we're gonna be able to do, probably we'll be able to do our roof, replace this roof this coming year, and finish repaving the third year of that 3-year project in Willow Run. And we'll be set up there for a good number of years. The state police barracks has been upgraded now. We're gonna be in fine shape with that. Probably next year, we'll look at restaining the building because it's in pretty rough shape over there as far as that goes, but it has a new roof on. I don't see any unforeseen things coming other than sprucing up the inside of the building and maybe the outside of the building and a new roof here.
And getting back to the budget again, I'll tell you, we don't have a lot of employees in town hall, but the ones that we have, and I mean every one of them, work hard, and we could not function without them, period. And they've worked hard for years, I mean, over a decade without a raise, which really isn't fair. I mean, so basically, while we're all conservative people on the board, and we all try to pinch pennies for you the best we can, it's just not fair to not at least provide something, some kind of a raise, even though we haven't had a lot of inflation in the last few years. But you know what, they do a great job for us, and we couldn't function, this town hall couldn't function without them. They're here for us when you need them. It's just the right thing, and the fair thing, and the proper thing to do. So, well, we're gonna spend a little bit more money. It's not, none of it's going to anybody up here on this board, but the employees do deserve it. They're entitled.
And it's not going to any of the committees either that are on.
Just our employees.
Just the employees of the town. So, and the only reason we left out the Justice Department is the judge is because he wasn't up for election this year. And according to associations of towns, I think you have to, in order to do something with that, you have to be in an election year, if I'm not mistaken. And that's what it says in the book, so that was left alone. So other than that, like I say, if anybody wants a copy of the budget, they're more than welcome to have it. We're in fine shape. You can come and look at our finances. The books are open all the time. There's Freedom of Information Act. You can request anything you want to see. Sandy's here every day, and she'd be more than happy to show you anything you'd like to see. So once the foil is placed, I don't see any. Like I said, there's a copy of the budget if anybody wants it. Sandy, you have any copies? Anybody would like a copy? Pardon?
It's probably got there in the future, right?
Yeah.
If it's a public hearing.
Sandy's got them. She can give them. Anybody would like a copy? Sandy will give them. She can put them on the table here if you want them. Do you want one, Michelle?
Thank you.
Lisa, you want one?
Michelle Bradley, please.
Anybody else? Jack? Doug?
I'll do it later, whatever.
Paul, you want one? Martha?
No, I'm sitting here listening to it, and I guess I'm totally in agreement here. I'm smiling, that's for sure. I like the shape of the budget. I looked over some of the figures earlier.
Carl, do you want one? I'm good. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, I guess we'll close the public hearing at, what's that time set?
8:18.
What is it?
8:18.
8:18. Okay. Let's see, meeting minutes. It is hereby resolved that meeting minutes of October 10th, 2017, regular town board meeting are approved or as amended. Discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Andy?
Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer? Yes. Councilman Jack Russo?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Okay. Read this over here. Negative declaration for amendment to the zoning code, Article 5, general provision, section 5.1, compliance required. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby adopts a negative declaration dated November 14, 2017 for adoption of an amendment to zoning code Article 5, general provision, section 5.1, compliance required as part of the code of the town of Princetown, and authorize the supervisor to sign the negative declaration as follows.
Yeah, I'll read the whole thing.
This is the
Anybody
Carver-
want me to read the whole thing?
This is the Carver one, right?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer? Yes. Councilman Jack Russo?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Adopt an amendment to zoning code Article 5, general.
Just passing the law. That's the law.
Adopt an amendment to the zoning code Article 5, general provisions, section 5.1, compliance required. Be it resolved that local law number 4 of the year 2017 is enacted, and the town board of the town of Princetown hereby adopts the amendment to zoning code Article 5, general provisions, section 5.1, compliance required as part of the code of the town of Princetown. The amendment to section 5.1 is as follows, and we already read this. Do I want me to read it? Anybody want me to read the whole thing over again?
No. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer? Yes. Councilman Jack Russo?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Okay, budget resolution. Whereas the 201 preliminary budget of the town of Princetown was filed with the town clerk on October 10, 2017, and whereas the town board of the town of Princetown duly held a public hearing on the 2018 preliminary budget, including the general fund, water fund, highway fund, Potter Kills, Pattersonville, Pine Grove, and Duanesburg Fire District, along with 2018 water and sewer assessment rolls approved by the town board and filed with the town clerk, and heard all the persons desiring to be heard on the matter. And whereas the town board adopted the 2018 preliminary budget at the town board meeting on October 10, 2017. Now, therefore, be resolved that the 2018 preliminary budget as presented is hereby adopted and is established as the 2018 final adopted budget for the town of Princetown for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2018. And be it further resolved that the 2018 final adopted budget shall be spread upon the minutes of the town board meeting in its entirety, and the town clerk shall prepare and certify as provided by law duplicate copies
of the said 2018 final adopted budget hereby adopted and deliver one of such copies to the supervisor of the town and one copy to the county legislature of the county of Schenectady as required by law. Discussion?
Can I just ask a question? Maybe see, were there changes made at post-preliminary budget to what's presented here?
Yes.
Okay, so you should probably indicate that now therefore be it resolved section of the resolution.
Okay.
Where it says like a 2018 preliminary budget, probably add there with changes, with whatever the changes are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what changes were made, but
I think there was
this
three,
is reading that there were no changes made.
Consolidated.
Right?
Yeah, there is a few.
Yeah, so I think we need to identify, we say there were changes.
So one of them was the UCC line.
Yes,
went
that
up.
had to increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one was the,
Code enforcement. I don't know what, it's not highlighted up there.
it was, the highway superintendent was on there. And
Fire district.
Yeah, the water fund was reduced so that it wasn't over the 2% cap, so that actually went down. And two of the fire departments changed, that also went down because of that
the 2% cap.
Well, there's also something in code enforcement and highway.
Just highway, the public safety was the total UCC, fire warden, dog control, and code enforcement is the total for the public safety. That's why that one is red. The UCC was the only one changed. So the total changed. You understand?
It's the salaries, right? Isn't that
No.
where the-
No.
The UCC changed, but it's a listing under the public safety heading.
Right. They don't look too different to me. Yeah, but these aren't. Why was public safety changed? Was that the 3,000 for UCC?
Yes.
Yes, that went up.
All right, and then, what happened with highway? That's the salary.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. That was the changes, correct, Sandy?
Yes, that was the changes.
Doug, anything? Susan? Jim?
No.
We good then? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll say that.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jacaruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yeah.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. This is another one over here. Call for a public hearing to enact a local law to allow a town board member to serve as an employee of the town in another capacity. The planning board chair had asked if there was a possibility that our newly elected town council member, Nicole Moore, if she could stay on as the secretary to the planning board. After checking with our attorney and associations of towns, they said you need a local law for that, and it's allowable. I asked Nicole if she would want to continue on doing that, and she said yes. If she serves on that as the secretary, she's not to be involved in any discussion with the planning board, since she's there only to be taking notes. And I think that Doug, being on the planning board, is here. I guess it's the consensus of the planning board that you'd like to have.
Secretary never, engages in conversation anyway, so.
Well, if she was a councilwoman, then
Yeah.
maybe she, asking her
Understand.
questions and stuff, she's not too, anyway, that was the gist of this, so after I check on it, it can be done, but you need a local law for it. So I'll open this up for discussion.
How specific is this law? Because I have concerns with long-term into the future, you know, if it's worded as a town board member can serve as an employee in another capacity, you could isolate power to a certain individual or two, and I don't know if that's a good thing. So it really depends on how that law is going to read. Because I mean, theoretically then, the supervisor could be, if it applied to any appointed position, you know, chairperson of the planning board, chairperson of the zoning board. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understand the intent with the secretary, I get that.
I mean, she would still, if this were to be passed, it would allow it, but you'd still have to have a vote at some point to appoint, or, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be automatic passing this,
If
correct?
you're saying you're changing a law.
No, there's another thing, with this, checking with the associations of towns on this, the planning board, which we have never done, appoints the secretary. That's the only
You do
committee.
the salary.
No,
You don't, you pay, the town pays.
for the salary, we do that. But the appointment of the secretary is always supposed to be done by the planning board. That's what they said. That's the only position that, for whatever reason, they didn't know why it was put in that way, but that's what the email said,
I guess your question then, would the law be specific to this position
Yeah, 'cause
or general for other
If
positions?
it just says a member of the town board can serve as an employee in another capacity, that just
In any of
reeks of, you know, yeah. That would be my concern, because why not then
Well, can
appoint
it be
anybody up
worded
here to
just for
anything you
her,
want?
or?
You can't just single one person out, though. You have to do it as a,
Well, the position is planning board secretary, town board member.
And that's gonna be in the law?
If that's how we put it together, if that's how you want to do it.
I would say you wouldn't want to, he's got a point there, rather than as an employee of the town.
Well, I think what you're referring to, he could be, you're saying he could, if they're an employee, then they can't be in a position on any board where they could speak up and make an opinion, so they couldn't,
Yeah,
they
so-
couldn't serve in that capacity.
So it depends on the wording, I mean, the way
So
this
they
is.
could only serve in a capacity where the board would be isolated from a board member who would be serving with any kind of influence.
Yeah.
Could only be the secretary.
You gotta be really careful with how you word it, because we could appoint ourselves.
Just put secretary in there for different committees and.
Should I draft that however the majority of the board wants me to?
I'm
Well,
just
I'd
be
like to have
careful.
the public hearing, because we have to.
Well, yeah, we can call, all we're doing today is call for a public hearing at the
Yeah.
next meeting. We're not.
I would just be.
You can make it case specific, just make it case specific for what you're trying to do here. You're doing,
Usually though, those laws.
and then if anything else comes up in another future, they'd have to pass another local law, or if she decides to resign from the planning board, then you can rescind the local law. I mean, you can make it just for,
I would just be careful setting the precedent about putting a town board member in an employee position. And like, it's nothing personal, I'm sure you'll do
Oh, no,
a great
I
job with all of it.
understand, yeah.
But I just, long-term, I'm talking, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now, you don't know who's gonna be in power and how they're gonna interpret this, you know?
Well, that's true, because basically then, what would prevent a town board member from being the clerk?
for the building
Exactly.
inspector.
Yeah, and we wouldn't want, we really probably wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
That would be as transparent and
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think we
that's
can do
true,
that.
she's elected.
That's
she's
all
still an employee of, we're all theoretically employees of the town.
Lou, is there a comparison here to be made to the board and the clerk? Is it a similar kind of thing that you're looking at? She certainly has the right to speak when you ask her a question, but is there a comparison with the committee and the secretary? She would not be committing herself to commenting on the meeting, but don't you have a comparable situation right here on the board and the clerk?
Yeah, but Sandy doesn't serve in any other capacity besides town clerk. You know?
Town clerk is responsible for the, taking the
Yes.
notes on
I
the
understand.
town board.
But she seems to be limited in some ways, that would this secretary also be limited?
Could limit this to secretary positions only for committees, couldn't we?
We could narrow it down dramatically.
Mhm.
Then why don't we do that?
Is this a public hearing and we've got time to work the wording out, right?
And it is hard for us, a small town like this, trying to find people who will help out and work for the salaries that this town pays.
And who lives in town?
Yeah.
Our residents.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's
So
it's tough to find,
some of us,
someone
well,
who
we're
is
two hacks. I mean, it's
secretary
just-
for these committees.
But I get the intent, you just gotta be careful. I mean, you gotta
It
be
is
careful
very
on
hard
how
to find
it's.
somebody to do secretarial work for the different committees. We've always had that
Oh, I
problem.
know.
It's hard to find somebody as good as Nicole
That's for sure.
doing the secretary, and I, throughout the years, we've had, I mean, they've all done good jobs, but she's thorough. So I can see the reasoning behind the chairwoman's, intent to retain her, because it is difficult to transcribe meetings.
Can
Very
we just change the language so that it fits in this one instance only, and then if we need another town,
Well, you'd have to do it, you just can't sit and make it for one instance only. You'd have to do it for, single it down for secretaries to committees. If any of the town board members wanted, we could do that, couldn't we,
I
Joe?
mean, the way it's generally worded here is that we would allow a member of the town board to only serve as secretary of zoning and secretary of planning, no other positions. So we wouldn't allow the town clerk or any.
oh, is that the way it's worded here? It's drafted like
Well,
that?
there's no law to analyze. This is just to do a public hearing on this
Right, well, but
idea.
until you pass it, the law can be whatever you want. It's not
Right.
passing anything, but that's generally how it is.
Yeah, actually, you're right, it does say that specifically. It says the proposed law is to allow a member of the town board to serve as secretary to the zoning board of appeals and secretary to the planning board. So why don't we just keep that language? Can we just keep that language?
You-
No?
I totally understand the intent, I get it, but just be careful on the precedent that you set, and be careful on how you word it. The last thing you want to have happen is another board 5, 10 years from now saying this precedent was set, and we're going to change it a little bit so we can put town board members in
So
other
that would be
positions.
I mean, they could do that,
Exactly.
they could do that anyway.
For anybody.
Yeah, well, this,
Even if we're
I've never heard of an
specifying
idea like this. I don't know if this
just
happens.
her, it's
It's never been done because the Attorney General gave an opinion on it, so some town did it and got an opinion from the Attorney General's office. It's-
What's the opinion, what was the opinion?
That it can be done.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying, is I'm assuming they wouldn't have given that opinion if some other town didn't go through this and ask for the opinion because they were doing, I don't know what town it was off the top of my head, but somebody, at least one other town did it. I don't know when or.
Right.
So now, based on those opinions, town board's free to do this and whatever they want, as long as they pass a local law. That's part of the process. You can't just do it. You gotta be local law to allow it.
And it does say planning or zoning.
Yeah, but not in the top part, it does.
True. That's just adding. You're right.
But the resolution is
Yeah, that's what I'm
specific.
saying.
The resolution is specific.
Well, then just have the public hearing, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the resolution is specific. The heading up here is not a resolution. The resolution is specific. The language is specific.
Well, it's in the resolution.
Am I reading that wrong?
Well, no, it's in the resolution for a town board member to serve as an employee of the town in other capacities. It's underneath to be resolved.
Very first chapter, or
Yeah.
paragraph.
But none of this is the actual local
Right.
law, so it
Right.
have to be drafted and presented to you.
Yeah.
You look at the wording.
So the question is, do we want to have the public hearing and do we want to go forward? with this?
Yeah,
That's-
right.
All right, then,
So we're making a motion for the public hearing.
yes.
I'll make that motion.
There a second?
I'll second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jackaruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Authorization of contract with Animal Protective Foundation. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Princetown hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute a 2-year contract with Animal Protective Foundation to provide shelter services to the town of Princetown. Discussion?
Like, when did this come about?
We have to do this when,
Every 2 years.
Okay,
The
so this is
contract
regular.
just is renewed, saying that the town is going to use APF for the drop-off of dogs that are picked up, and that we will pay the fee, but we collect that back from the owners of the dogs.
So this is just normal procedure?
Yes.
Every 2 years.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we do that.
a second?
Susan
Susan
did.
Shea, second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavolli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jack Caruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Authorization for payment for lawn care services. George Mead, our Harry Boley, who does the lawn, injured himself, not on town premises, but at his own house, and he was, could not perform the duties. I asked George if he could fulfill those duties, so over and above of what his job was, so he did it, cut the grass 3 times, he was paid the same amount that Harry Boley gets paid for doing it, which is $100. Be it resolved that, well, let me open it up for discussion. Be it resolved first, when it be resolved, the town board of the town of Princetown hereby authorizes payment to George Mead for lawn care services provided to the property of the town of Princetown during the fall of 2017 in the amount of $300. Discussion?
We pay our bills. I move we
You already voted.
We pay our bills, I move we.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavolli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jack Caruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Election expenses is hereby resolved that the town board directs the Schenectady County Finance Department to levy Princetown share of the 2015 county election expense on the county tax warrant. This goes, our elections always, cost of the election goes on to the January tax bill. Am I correct, Sandy?
Yes.
We don't know exactly how much it is.
The total is $28,000, but it gets split up for each tax bill, so
Right.
it's like $30 around there sometimes, so.
Is that a typo on this, is 2015 or 2017?
No, it's 2015, we're
Oh, it is
always
from-
behind.
Oh, okay, okay.
Discussion?
We pay our bills, I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavolli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jack Caruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. General funds claim. It is hereby resolved that the town board approves claims number 208 through 233 in the amount of $14,062.85. Discussion? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Councilman Pavolli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jack Caruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Water funds claims. It is hereby resolved that the town board approves claims number 97 through number 109 in the amount of $8,347.96. Discussion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Sandy?
Councilman Pavolli?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jack Caruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Council member comments and discussion. I want to bring up one thing before we go much farther on this, because we got to get this resolved. Sandy brought it up and Isla brought it up, that our youth program, what was the amount, Sandy?
$3,320, I think.
$3,320 that we have to pay for our youth program with
Oh,
Dwayne.
sorry, $2,203.
2,200.
Sorry.
Okay, 2,000, what was it?
2,203. Last year, it was around $1,800.
So it went up again, and this is for this past year.
This is for, yes.
We do not know
2017
how many Princetown residents are utilizing this service. And we're paying, in my opinion, an exorbitant amount of money for this right now, without knowing what we're getting in return for it. I'd just like to open this up for discussion before we get involved for next year.
Who do we audit to find out? What's the process of?
It's run by Williamsburg, right?
Yes.
Primarily, so they should.
Do we have a specific contact person we can audit? We can ask for an
Susan
audit?
Schaefer was supposed to be the one that took care
And
of
she
it.
did not get back to me on their total, but she said, I forgot what the percentage, but it was a good percentage.
She didn't tell you how many.
No,
Well, we're gonna need a, can you get that?
I can't.
Okay, and then we'll discuss it at the next meeting, because we, we're just not gonna keep dishing out money if we don't know what we're getting it for. I mean, it's getting up into, in my opinion, a lot of money. So, you can have that by next meeting? Okay. That's all I had for that, but council member concerns? Doug? Ben?
Right, so, you mentioned we're in a good financial shape, and I agree. The town has a decent amount of money. Can we give $500 to PAC so they can do their trees on recycle day?
Actually, it's 300.
Well, plus the 200 from last year.
200. What was it total?
200 from last year,
And 300 again.
300 additional.
So I'd like to make the motion that we give 300 to PAC so that recycle day can go the way it's supposed to go. It's not a huge expense to the town. We're doing well financially, so I'd like to make that motion.
Now, you have the 200 in the general fund, that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to make the
The
motion. that we-
total of $500.
Well, before the motion is made, any more further discussion on it? What's Susan?
Oh, I agreed last year I wanted to, I voted that we should have taken it
Yeah, we
out,
voted
so-
on this at the beginning.
Well, you have to understand, last year, the numbers were much higher. We're looking at over 1,000, right, last
No, it
year?
was like
No.
700.
800.
Yeah, I mean, our concern was that it was going up year after year. If we can keep it in the 500 range, that's doable, it's not an excessive amount. The question that we had was whether, at the town board, whether it's appropriate to give stuff away. As long as everybody can live with that, if everybody's comfortable with it, it's not a lot of money.
We've been doing it for decades, right?
Yeah, we've been
Yeah,
doing it,
it's
we've
been
done
a
it for a long
program
time.
for like 20 years, and what I've done is, what I'm proposing to do was go more with a less expensive giveaway item. Instead of $1.15 for a 2-foot-high seedling on a tree, what I'm planning on doing is getting a bunch of 65-cent seedlings that are about 3 feet tall that, and in my opinion, if people come in there and they're walking away with something they can take home and plant,
You're going to get more.
they're gonna be happy campers and, we might get a little bit better turnout at the event.
People like free stuff.
Absolutely, that's what it boils down to.
I told you before, Carl, I'll talk with the county, see if we can get some donations from it.
And I have feelers out with DEC for additional giveaways. They haven't gotten back to me yet, so hopefully they'll be, if they can come up with some stuff, it's gonna be a bonus.
Well, if like I said, the problem last year is it was up to $800 or $900, if I remember right. That
It would have been about
just
that, yeah.
Just continuing the rise, but for $300.
Yeah, 500.
Well, it was, it's 500, we already
We
gave
already
two
got
back.
two.
Right.
Yeah, Gave back two, so it's
I
actually.
don't mean to cause problems, but I think technically, you gotta pay the bill. I don't think technically, it just hit me now, but I don't think you can write a check to the committee. I think you have to write a check to pay an invoice. Then
Yes, you do.
So
Yeah.
however the motion has to be worded, that's fine. To earmark $500 for PAC after recycle day so the bill can be paid.
Yeah, we always
is
do
that a
that.
problem for them if they have to pay it?
Well,
Invoice or?
The initial money for the trees is gonna have to be sent to the nursery, before they ship out. And then they typically send us the bill for the shipping fee once it leaves
Well,
once it leaves the farm, because they never know what the shipping is gonna be until they ship it.
Well, once we get the amount, Sandy writes up the invoice, and I sign it, and then we send a check.
They usually send us a bill for the first cost as well as for after they ship for the shipping fee.
Yeah.
So we get an actual bill.
I don't see no problem with that amount.
Yeah, and I mean, PAC does good work. I mean, everybody looks forward to that in the spring. That's kind of a Princetown day that, you know, as long as we can keep it in that 500 range, I think we're
Yeah, because I'm just trying to keep people interested in it, because I'm trying to expand the program. I've got Cornell Cooperative Extension getting involved with it now, and as in the last couple of years, they had like a compost expert there to give advice on gardening, and a gardening expert, and a soil testing person, and I'm gonna have those people back again this year, along with Solar Liberty, to talk to people if they want solar energy. You know, I may have some more people showing up. I still haven't heard back from yet, so. But I'm trying to expand it into making it more like an environmental day where people can just do more than drop off junk. So I think the plant giveaway just kind of helps that along, supports it.
All right, so, that was for his wife. That's easy, so.
Just read it.
Motion to earmark $500 for recycle day expenses. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Sandy?
Wait a minute, I had 2 seconds.
It was my motion initially.
Ben. Councilman Pavoldi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilman Jackaruso?
Yes.
Councilman Gray?
Yes.
Supervisor Esposito?
Yes. Okay.
I got some more.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
You said the water bond's a no-go,
What?
right? We lost that one.
We lost that for this year.
So how does that affect the water study up in,
No, that's got nothing to do with that.
so that's still gonna happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you both said
Okay.
so.
That'd be it.
Yeah, Sandy, remind me to call Doug on that, the study up for Willow Run. They've been supposed to have been working on that quite a long time now. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, but next meeting.
Okay. Anything, Susan?
No, I just want to mention to Carl too that I'm really happy that you're getting the money for those trees, but I also have some people I can call to help from both DEC and nursery as well.
That would be
To see if we
appreciated.
can Get some more stuff for that, you know, for the recycle day. I think that would be great too.
Jim?
No, I'm good.
Were you done, Susan?
Yes.
Doug, you're all set?
Yep.
Okay, I'm all set. Let's see, is hereby resolved that the town board meeting is adjourned at, what is it? 8:50.